Hey guys, so just before this tutorial starts, I just do want to say that I am making a game at the moment called Alien Paranoia for the DreadXP Extraterrestrial Terror Jam. I will let you guys know when this game does release, but I'm just letting you guys know about it now so you guys can see what I'm currently working on. So yeah, I've been working on this game jam game a lot recently, so when it does come out, I hope you guys do support it. I hope you guys do end up playing it. It is going to be free, of course, so you won't need to pay anything. And yeah, so now let's continue on with the tutorial. Hey, what is up everyone, I'm Omogonix here, and welcome to part 3 of my tutorial series where I teach you guys how to make a horror game in Godot. I just do want to first off thank you guys for 7,000 subscribers. Just recently we hit 7,000 subscribers on the channel, which is crazy, and literally just yesterday I was talking about how I was just, you know, pretty close to it. Like, I think yesterday I was at 6,980 subscribers, and then literally I wake up this morning to 7,000, so thank you guys for 7,000 subscribers. And also thank you guys for the support on this new tutorial series as well, it does mean a lot. And so anyways, how about now we finally get into part 3. So to recap what we learnt in part 2, I'm pretty sure I taught you guys how to do sprinting, how to do a basic flashlight, and also how to set up a basic horror level as well. So I'll actually test out the game now just to show you guys what we did last time. So here we are, so this is our current level at the moment. We will be working on it more, of course, but this is what we've got currently at the moment. So as you can see, I can sprint around, and I can also toggle on and off my flashlight. And also we just have a few more lights around the scene as well, so yeah. So anyways, what we're going to be doing in this part is I'm going to be showing you guys how to add some sounds into your game. I'm also going to be adding in a flashlight for us to pick up, so then we actually have to pick up a flashlight in order to use it. And I'm also going to be doing like a cutscene as well, like a beginning cutscene. So if you guys do enjoy this tutorial, or you do learn something from it, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And so yeah, let's get right into it. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to be doing in this part is I'm actually going to be making a table. And why am I going to be making a table? Well, I'm going to be making a table for us to pick up our flashlight from. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new scene, and it's going to be a 3D scene. And so here we are. So what we're going to do is we have our table, and I'm just going to rename this node 3D here to table. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in a static body 3D. There we go. And then we're also going to add in a collision as well, so we need to add in a collision shape 3D. There we go. And then we're going to add a shape, so we're going to give it a box shape, and there we go. So this will be the collision for our table. And so what we're going to do is we're going to now be adding in a mesh instance 3D. So we're going to have we're going to add a child node to the parent node there, mesh instance 3D, and there we go. So now I'm just going to make this a cube, and boom. So this is going to be the top of our table, so I'm just going to scale it so then it's like a tabletop. There we go. So that looks like a rectangle table right there. And then we'll just scale it up a bit, there we go. Or position it up a bit, I mean. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to add in some chair legs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a new mesh instance 3D. And so if you want to rename your, you know, your objects as well to keep track of what they are, like for example, this top bit of our table, if you want to rename this to like tabletop, or something, so then you know what it is, then you can do that. Just like how I'm going to rename this new mesh instance 3D I just added in to table leg. So I've got tabletop and table leg, and the mesh of this is going to be a cylinder. So this is a cylinder mesh, and I'm even going to turn down the poly count on it as well. So if you actually click onto your mesh, you can actually change the radial segments of it. So I'm just going to turn this down to something like 16. And there we go, that looks good enough, so yeah. So there we go, there's our cylinder. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to then scale this cylinder down so then it's like in the size of a chair leg. So yeah. So I'm just going to unlink the scaling, and I'm going to scale on the X value by 0.1, and on the Z value 0.1, and there we go, that looks like a decent chair leg. So now we can just position that where I want, and then just move that over there we go. And so yeah. I will also be showing how to like import Blender models into your games as well, since when it comes to Godot, you can't import FBXs I mean. I'm pretty sure you can use some sort of add-on which can allow you to add in FBXs to your game, maybe, but I don't really use add-ons when it comes to Godot. However, if you guys want to look into add-ons, you can, but I will be showing you guys, either in this part or in a future part, how to actually add in Blender models to your game. So yeah, it's not that confusing at all. It is pretty easy. You know, it's just that you can't actually export your models as FBXs. You have to export them as GLBs, I think is the correct file format for them. So yeah. But anyway, so now that we've got our simple table made, what we're going to do is we're now going to position our static body 3D a bit. I'm just going to position up a tiny bit like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to extend out my collision shape 3D, so then it is in the correct scale of the table. So there we go. And boom, so now our table can be collided with by the player. So I'm just going to save the scene now, so go into your scenes folder and then save the table scene, there we go. And boom. So now I'm going to actually make some basic materials for this table. Well, I'm just going to make one basic material for the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my materials folder, right click, go create new resource, and then standard material 3D. And so I'm just going to call this table. And so this will be my table material. So with my table material, I'm just going to make it sort of like a brownie sort of color. Something like that. There we go. So that there is going to be my table material. Just save it, and there we go. So now I'm going to then apply my material to my table. There we go. Just applying it to all the legs and stuff. And boom, there we have my basic table. So now if we go back into my main level scene, and then we add in our table, boom, there is our table. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a particular place to place this table. By the way, if you actually click on this little tab here, the perspective, where it says perspective and it has the 3 dots, if you click on this, you can actually choose to, you know, view or unview certain things if you want to. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my environment just so that I can get a better look at my map. Because, you know, if you turn off your environment, then, you know, it disables a lot of the environment lighting and stuff. So if you've got a dark environment, then you can better look around your map. So here I have my player. And I'm going to actually be beginning my game over here in this little part of the level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this table over here because this is the table that I want the player to pick up the flashlight from. And I'm just going to rotate it and position it over here. There we go. So there is our table. And what I'm going to do too is I'm actually going to move this light in here as well. Since, you know, our player will be waking up in here and they won't have a flashlight when they first spawn, so yeah. And then last but not least, I will be moving my player into this room as well, since this will be the starting room, and then I'll just rotate them by 180 degrees that way. And there we go, so there is our player. Alrighty, so now as you guys can see, we now have a table in the scene. And if you guys think it's a bit too big or too small when you add it into your scene, you can still scale it, of course. So I might scale up my table just a tiny bit. There we go. And so now, if we actually go ahead and test out our scene, as you can see, we have our table and we can collide with it. So yeah. If you guys want to add more tables around your scene, that's totally fine as well, if you want to add them around as like decoration, but yeah. So the purpose of this table here will be for us to then pick up our flashlight from. Alrighty, so next up we're going to be adding in our function for our player to pick up the flashlight. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create a new scene, a new 3D scene, so then we can actually make our flashlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the type of our parent node here to a static body 3D. So you just want to change the type to static body 3D, and there we go. And then I'm going to rename this to flashlight. And boom. So now what we're going to do is we're then going to get out a mesh instance 3D. And so we're going to be making the shape of our flashlight now. So we're going to be getting out a cylinder. And I'm just going to now turn down the radial segments to something like 14 or 16. 14 looks alright. I think we could even go a bit less, but I think 14 is pretty good. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to now rotate this on its, I think, x-axis. Yep, on its x-axis. And remember guys that opposite of the Z arrow is forward. So we want to make our flashlight in this direction since this is forward. So do remember that guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then scale this down a bit. Just scale down the handle of our flashlight, and there we go. So now I'm going to then duplicate this. I'm going to select this and then press Ctrl D, and there we go. And so now I'm going to then scale our flashlight head. So I'm just going to scale this up to 1 and then 1, and there we go. And so yeah, now we have our flashlight's head. Alrighty, so that there is basically the basic shape of our flashlight. We still do have one more basic little thing to do, and that is just adding in the little top part of it, because as you guys know, with flashlights they do have a little, you know, top part where the light comes out of, so I'm just going to be adding that in. And there we go. So that there is our flashlight. So now what I am going to do is I am going to add in some materials for this flashlight, of course. So first off, I am going to save the flashlight scene. There we go. And now we're going to add in some materials. So I'm just going to go right click on my materials folder, create new, and then resource, and then standard material 3D. I'm going to call this flashlight. And now I'm going to be doing the flashlight materials. So with this, I'm just going to be turning up the metallic all the way to 1. And then I'm going to be turning down my roughness to 0.5. And now we have a more metallic looking material. And there we go. So now we have our flashlight's material added on. And then last but not least, of course, we do need the material which, you know, which represents this top bit of the flashlight. So to easily do this, I'm just going to copy my flashlight material. I'm just going to call this flashlight top. So this is just the light bit of the flashlight, and I'm going to apply this material, and then I'm going to make some changes to it. So first off, I'm going to remove the metallicness from it, so it's no longer metallic. I'm going to turn down the roughness all the way to 0, and then I'm going to turn the albedo to something like, just like a dark blue, maybe. Something like that. There we go. We'll just like have it like that. And if you're wondering why I'm having it as this color, it's because the flashlight isn't meant to be on when we pick it up, it's meant to be off, so that's why I'm not just making it a normal white light material, so yeah. So anyways, there we have our flashlight, which the player is going to pick up. So we do need to add some collision to it, of course, as well. So be sure to click on your flashlight's parent object, right click, go add child node, and then collision shape 3D. And now we have the collision shape 3D for our flashlight. So I'm going to add a box collider to this. And there we go. So now we have our flashlight. So you might be wondering how we're actually going to be interacting with this. Well, I will be showing you guys how. So what you want to do is you want to click on your flashlight's parent object, the static body 3D, and then you want to go down to the script section where it says empty, and then you want to go new script. So we're just going to call this the pickup flashlight script. So it's just going to be called pickup flashlight. And then we're going to be putting this in the scripts folder and then create. So now we're going to be working on our pickup flashlight script. Alright, so first things first, we do need to make a change to our normal flashlight script that we've already made in part 2. And here's the change that we're going to need to make. So we're going to add a new variable, and I'm going to call this variable picked up. And this will equal to false at first, and the reason as to why we're adding this variable is because we don't want our player to be able to use our flashlight unless they've picked it up. So we've added in the new picked up variable, but now what we need to do as well is in our process function, where it says if input is action just pressed flashlight, we need to write end picked up equal to true. So then the player can only use the flashlight if picked up is equal to true. So now we're going to go to our pickup flashlight script, and we're going to get rid of all this starter stuff here, and we're going to add in a new variable. So for this variable, what we're going to write is we're going to write var flashlight. And so what we're going to do is we're going to then write func underscore ready. And flashlight equals to get underscore node. So now we're going to be getting a node in our scene. So we're going to be doing slash root slash. So this is getting the root node. And then what we need to do is we then need to get our levels node, like our main scenes node. So we're going to go plus and then get underscore tree current underscore scene dot name. So we're getting the name of our current scene, and then we're going to plus again. And then what we want to do here is we want to get the path of our flashlight. So since the flashlight is attached to our player, we want to actually get the path to our player. So let's go to our player scene here. So as you can see, the path here, let's go back to our pickup flashlight script. So as you can see, the path here would be player, head, and then flashlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do player slash head slash flashlight. Now, if the name of the nodes in your game are different, then you will need to use different words here than what I've used. Like, for example, if your player isn't called player, but is instead called something like Bob, then instead of writing player here, you would write Bob, and yeah, so on and so forth. So this is just an example. So what you want to do here for your pickup flashlight script is you want to make sure that in the ready function, the flashlight variable that we just made equals to the flashlight that is attached to our player. So yeah. So now what we're going to do is in a new function, this will be called the pickup function. So we're going to be doing func pickup and then the 2 dots. Alrighty, so here's what we're going to be doing in our pickup function. So what we're going to do is, so when the player picks up the flashlight, this is what will happen. So what will happen is flashlight dot picked underscore up will equal to true. So this will mean that the player will then be able to interact with the flashlight. And then we'll do Q underscore free. And so what this does is after we pick up our player's flashlight, the flashlight that is on the table gets removed from the scene. So now it's just totally removed from the scene, and then we can actually just interact with our flashlight that we have attached to the player. So yeah. So that is pretty much it for the pickup flashlight script. In fact, you know, you could use this script for more than just picking up a flashlight. I might, you know, if I do any other picking up objects in this tutorial series, I might edit this script a bit so then we can make it you know, used for other objects to be able to be picked up as well. But yeah, this could be used for other stuff as well if you want it to. So yeah, that there is our basic flashlight pickup script, but that isn't it. That isn't all we need to do, since we need to do some stuff with the player as well in order to get this pickup script actually functioning. So go back to your player's scene, and so on your player, what you want to do is you want to attach a Raycast to your player's camera or your player's head. Actually, probably your player's head would probably be the best, so attach a Raycast to your player's head. So you want to click on your player's head, right click on it, go add child node, and then we're going to add a Raycast 3D. And so now we have our player's Raycast. So yeah, Raycasts in Godot work differently to Unity, where you can just add them into your scene and just use them like that. I actually like using Godot's Raycasts a lot for this reason, so yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate our Raycast on its x-axis by 90 degrees, so then it's now pointing forward. So now I'm just going to then position my Raycast in a better position. Position it right in the middle of my camera, so maybe at like, you know, just the 0 axis of my actual player scene. And then I'm going to then extend out my Raycast, since we want the Raycast to be longer. And yeah, so there we go. I think that this is a good length for my player's Raycast. And so for those of you who don't know, our player's Raycast, the Raycast 3D, will be used for the interaction of our flashlight. So when we go to pick up our flashlight, this Raycast will be heavily involved in the interaction of that. So now what we're going to do is we now need to create a script for our Raycast. So make sure you have your Raycast selected, and then go down to where it says script empty, click on it, and then go new script. And I'm going to call this script Raycast. And I'm going to then put it in the scripts folder, and there we go. And then create scripts, and boom. Alright, so for our Raycast script, what we're going to be doing first off is we're going to be getting rid of the ready function, since we won't need that. And what we're going to do here is we're now going to be working with the process function. So we're going to be doing if is underscore colliding, and then the 2 dots. So what this will be doing is if the Raycast is colliding with a static body, or just, you know, an object that it can collide with and interact with, then what will happen is a variable will be created called hit, and that will equal to getCollider. And so what getCollider is this will get the collider of what the Raycast is interacting with. So if hit dot has method, so we're going to be checking if the hit variable has a method called, and then we need to get the variable of what's here, the function of what's here on our pickup flashlight script called pickup. So where we have if hit dot has method, you want to put pickup, and also, something else that we need to do here as well, before we do get to this, is we need to go into our project settings, go to the input map, and we need to now add in a new action called interact. So this will be the action that we use to then interact with objects. So when we pick up objects, when we open doors and all that sort of stuff, just for our basic interaction, that's what this action is going to be for. So on your interact action, go to the plus icon, press on that, and then press on whatever key you want your interact key to be. So I want E to be my interact key, so I'm going to be setting that to E, and I'm going to be doing OK, and then I'm going to close that. And then what we're going to do here is, so where we've got if hit.has method pickup, we're then going to do input.isAction just pressed, and then interact in quotes. And then we're going to do the 2 dots again, and then indent. So what we've got here so far is, so the hit variable will be created, and it'll get the collider of whatever the Raycast is hitting. And then if the hit variable has the method pickup, so that means that if the Raycast is actually hitting the flashlight that we need to pick up, and then we press the interact key, here's what will happen. So hit dot and then pick up, and boom, it's as simple as that. So that there is basically our Raycast script. There's nothing else that we have to do here for now. And so what we're going to do is I've got a better idea. So with the pickup flashlight function here, I'm actually going to rename this to interact, and there's a reason for that. And the reason as to why is because, let's say for example, right, we have other stuff that we want the player to interact with, like doors and light switches and that sort of stuff, right? So instead of then having to add on to our Raycast script with extra functions, what I think we should do instead is just have it so then every function is just called interact that we want our Raycast to interact with, so then we don't have to add on to it anymore like that, so then it's just, you know, much more easier. So that's another option there. And boom. So something else which we should probably do is to let our player know that they can interact with an object, we should probably add in some sort of text or something which says E to interact, or just, you know, something which allows our player to know, like, hey, look, you can interact with this. So here's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our UI scene, and then we're going to go to the 2D view. Alright, so in your UI scene, you want to right click on your UI, go add child node, and we're going to be adding in a rich text label. And there we go, so rich text label. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're just going to be writing E interact. So then when we are looking at our flashlight, when we're looking at our flashlight, this bit of text will then show up. So I'm just going to scale it up. So again, if you don't know how to change the font size of text in Godot, what you do is you go to Theme Overrides, Font Sizes, and then you can actually just set the font here. So then we just go 40, for example, and now my text has gotten larger. So you can do whatever you want with your interact text. If you just want to have it say E and then have it in the middle of the screen, that's totally fine. But what I'm going to be doing here is I'm just going to be having it show up in the top left hand corner of the screen. So then when the player is then looking at the flashlight, in the top left hand corner you'll be seeing E to interact. So that's what I'm going to be doing here, but again, you guys can do whatever you want for your pickup text. So yeah. So I'm just going to rename this to interact text. And boom. So now I'm just going to turn this off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my script view. And then with the Raycast script, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to add a new variable. And this variable will be called intText. And so we're going to actually create a ready function now. 2 dots, indent. And then so intText will equal to get underscore node root. So we're going to be doing the root. And then we're going to be plussing, and then get underscore tree, and then we're going to be getting our current scene's name. So the name of our current scene. And then we're going to be getting our UI. And then last but not least, the int text. And there we go. So the int text variable in the Raycast script will equal to the int text in our UI. Oh, wait a second, sorry. It's called interact text, I meant to call it. There we go. So the int text variable here will equal to the interact text in our UI. So yeah. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be entering a new thingy, if hit.has method interact. Actually, wait, no. I've got a better idea. So what we're going to be doing instead is this part of the script here with the input .is action just press, we're actually going to be moving this. So if hit.has method interact, we're going to be leaving that as, but we're going to be writing if, and then so if input.is action just pressed interact, do the 2 dots, and then we're going to be indenting the hit.interact line, so then it's like this. And the reason as to why we're going to be doing this is so then we just make the code a little bit more streamlined for what we're about to do here. So if hit.has method interact, what will happen is the int text will become visible. So int text.visible equals true. And the reason as to why we're doing this is because, well, the Raycast is looking at an object which the player can interact with, so then the int text turns on. And so then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing else. So if the hit variable doesn't have the method interact, what will happen instead is the int text will turn off, so it'll no longer be visible. and then we're going to copy this section of code here, and then we're actually going to paste it in the if is colliding section as well. So I mean underneath the if is colliding section as well. So you just want to do else. So if the Raycast isn't interacting with anything, then the int text will again turn off. So yeah, and then that there is pretty much our Raycast script done for now. And yeah, so I can't think of anything else to do. If there is anything else to do, then I will do it later on. But overall, that should be it. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to test this all out. So, alright, so I was literally just about to test the game just then until I just realized, oh wait a second, I haven't actually added the flashlight that we need to pick up into the scene yet. So what we need to do is you need to go into your main level, and then we need to add in our flashlight. So go to your scenes folder, find the flashlight, then drag it in, and boom, there is our flashlight. So obviously this flashlight is a little bit large, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it down. Oops. What I should have done is I should have linked the scaling, so then it'll be much more easier to do. There we go. 0.2, that seems like an alright size. So here we have our flashlight. And yeah. Alright, so my flashlight is now sitting on the table. And so what I am going to do now is I'm actually going to finally test this out and see if the picking up flashlight works. So let's go test it out. And boom, as you can see, when I look at the flashlight, the interact text shows up. Well, first of all, I just noticed that my flashlight on the player is on, so I do want to quickly turn that off first, but at least we do see for now that the interaction text actually does show up, and if I pressed E, it would then pick up, but I don't want to pick it up yet, because I want to first off disable my player's flashlight in the actual editor, so I'm going to do that quickly. So yeah, first off what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to disable my player's flashlight, so then when we do start off testing again, like I just was before, then we don't have the flashlight yet, so then you guys can actually see the flashlight in action when I do pick it up. So yeah, so let's go run the project again. And there we go. So now as you can see, the player has no flashlight, and if I press F, I can't actually use the flashlight right now, because in order for us to use the flashlight, we need to actually pick it up, so then the picked up variable in our flashlight script equals to true. Because right now it equals to false, and we can't currently pick up the flashlight. So what we need to do is we need to walk over to our flashlight, and we need to pick it up. And boom, so now that we've picked up the flashlight, I can now press F and use the flashlight, and now as you can see, it now works. So yeah, as you guys just saw, there was no errors or anything just then, it all worked perfectly fine. And yeah, so that there is how you pick up a flashlight. And again, you could use that pick up flashlight script for other things as well, like if you want to pick up other objects, you might just need to change around a few things, you know what I mean, so then you can customize it a bit more for your use. But yeah, overall, that is how you pick up a flashlight. Alright guys, so what we're going to be doing now is we're actually going to be adding some sounds into our game. So what I've got here is I've got a new sounds folder that I've just made, so when you're adding sounds into your game, I do recommend that you do make a sounds folder, of course, and then I've got an ambience.mp3 sound, so it's just a bit of ambience, and then a flashlight toggle sound called flashlight_on.mp3. So these are two sounds which I've actually just recently made for a game that I'm making for a game jam called Alien Paranoia. At the start of this video, I would have actually showed some teaser gameplay of it to, you know, just show you guys it, and yeah. So when that game does come out, be sure to go check it out, and be sure to give it a rating as well, as it would help a lot. And yeah, so when it comes to what kind of sound files you can use MP3s, I think you can use OGGs as well. You can use WAVs as well, except there's like less customizability with WAVs in Godot than there is with MP3s. I usually always use MP3s, I don't really use other sound files, but you guys are free to use and try out other sound files as well if you want to see if they do work. But yeah, I recommend mainly sticking to MP3 since that's what I mainly use when using Godot, so yeah. But again, WAVs do work, it's just that there's less customizability with them, so yeah. So what I'm going to do is, so as you guys can see here, I've got a flashlight toggle sound. So you can, already guess what that's for, right? So what we're going to be doing is with our flashlight, so select your flashlight, and then we're going to be right-clicking and then going Add Child Node, and then we're going to be adding an audio player, so an audio stream player it's called. You want to add this in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to Toggle. There we go. You guys can rename that to whatever you want, but I'm just renaming it. I was about to say. I'm just renaming it to Toggle. And then so with the stream, where it says stream, you want to go to empty and then go quick load. And then you want to select one of your sound files. So here I want to select flashlight_on since that's my flashlight toggle sound. And there we go. So now with your flashlight toggle sound, what you want to do is you want to go to your script, go to your flashlight script. The reason as to why we have the toggle sound as a child of the flashlight is so then we can access it much more easily than if we weren't to have it as a child, because then there'd be a bit of extra steps. But when we have it as a child of the flashlight, we can access it much more easily. So here's what we're going to do. So when we interact with the flashlight and we are pressing F, to, make it go visible and not visible and stuff like that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be entering $ and then toggle.play. And there we go. So what we're doing here is we are accessing the toggle sound by just using the $, since this is how you would access the child nodes of your node. So whatever your flashlight toggle sound is called, even if it's just called something like, I don't know, Bob Sound 123, then, you can type that. But because my sound is called Toggle, I'm writing Toggle. And then .play will play the sound, so yeah. So now whenever we are pressing F to toggle our flashlight, what will happen is the toggle sound will play as well. Alright, so before we test out the flashlight toggle sound, what we will be doing is we'll now be actually adding in our ambient sound. So I'm going to switch back to the normal level. And so what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be adding in our ambient sounds. So as you guys can see here, I've only got one ambient sound, but if you guys want to have multiple in your scene, that is totally fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our level node, go add child node, and then you want to get an audio stream player 3D, since this is going to be, 3D sounds, obviously, since we want these sounds to come from, all sorts of different directions. We don't want them to just come from just, just one direction at all, like, just from the middle of your head, basically, so yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an audio stream player 3D, sort of just over here, up in this corner over here. So then, depending on where the player is in the scene, that is where the audio will be heard from. So if I'm standing over here, for example, and I'm looking in this direction, I will hear the audio coming from that direction over there, where it's coming from. So yeah, that is how audio stream player 3Ds work, for those who don't know. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be adding in our ambient sound to the stream. So click on your audio stream player 3D. And then where it says stream empty, go quick load, and then adding your ambient sound. So there is a bunch of stuff that you can edit here, like the volume, the max decibels, the pitch scale, that sort of stuff. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to be double clicking on my ambient sound file in the file system over here. I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to enable loop and then go re-import, so then our sound now loops. So that's an easy way of looping sounds in Godot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to turn on autoplay, since I want this sound to play as soon as the scene starts. And you can also set the max distance that the sound can be heard from as well. So what I'm going to do is, even though I've only got like one ambient sound in my files, right, I am still going to use this ambient sound to create 4 different ambient sounds from around the scene. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to lower the pitch scale for each audio stream player, so then it sounds a bit different for each ambient sound that is being heard around. And yeah, but you guys can of course add multiple ambient sounds. I'm just using one for this example of the tutorial, so yeah. So I'm going to be setting the max distance of this to 50, and we'll see how big that is. So the orange circle here, this is like basically showing you the distance of which it will be able to hit. So I think that 50 is okay, but I might just set it to 60 just to be safe. So yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to rename this audio stream player 3D to ambience. And I'm also going to actually reparent this to a different node. So I'm going to right click, then go reparent to new node, node 3D. And I'm going to call this ambient sounds. And there we go. So now with this ambient sound here, I'm actually going to duplicate it and then move it over here. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the pitch scale to 0.8. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, except this time it's going to be moved over into this corner. And the pitch scale will be changed to 0.6. And then last but not least, we'll have a fourth ambient sound, which then I'll be setting to a pitch scale of 0.4. The reason as to why I think it's good to have multiple ambient sounds around is so then you have, you know, multiple layers of ambience going on, so then it's not just one sound, you know what I mean? So yeah, I do think it is good to have multiple layers of ambience around. I do think it is good to do that. So yeah, be sure to maybe consider doing that for your game if that is what you want to do for your game. You don't have to, of course, but I do recommend doing it since it just adds more immersiveness in some ways, since you have ambience coming from all sorts of different directions, so yeah. So anyways, now that we have our sounds prepared, how about we now actually test out our game so far and see what we've got here. So let's go play, and let's test it out. So I don't know if you guys can hear this well right now, but here, I'll stop speaking. So I don't know how well you guys can hear the ambience right now since it is sort of quiet, but the ambience is currently playing. I might turn it up when I do another test, but overall I can hear it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the flashlight, and then boom. So as you can see, when I turn off the flashlight on and off, as you can see when I toggle the flashlight on and off, the toggle sound plays. You can actually hear the ambience much better over here with this side. So yeah, that there is how we add some sounds into our game. Oh, just ran into a wall. Also guys, I just do want to say that this is pretty much the end of the tutorial now. That is all we're going to be doing for this tutorial. I was going to show you guys how to do a beginning cutscene as well, but I just don't really have enough time for that. I'm currently actually working on a game jam game for the DreadXP Extraterrestrial Terror Jam called Alien Paranoia. So I will let you guys know when that game is released. I'll probably do like some sort of small little release trailer or something like that, of course, when the game is out. So what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to be scaling my player's flashlight up a bit in terms of its radius. You guys don't have to do this. This is just something which I'm doing because I think that my flashlight's radius is a little bit small. Either that or I could turn up the energy levels as well, but I think what I'll do is I'll turn up the angle to something like maybe 35, and then I might even turn up the energy to like 1.5, and then yeah, that might be good for our player's flashlight, and then I'll just disable that again, and boom. So one quick thing that I do want to show you guys before ending off this tutorial is actually UI scaling. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean is currently with how our project settings are set, our UI doesn't currently scale to our window size. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to turn on my UI elements. I'm actually going to test out this UI scene here, right? So here we are in our UI scene. If I scale my window, as you can see, it doesn't scale correctly. So when I'm scaling my window more and more out, as you can see, the UI stays over here in the left-hand corner of the screen, and it doesn't actually scale depending on our window's size. So in order to fix that, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our project settings, and then you'll want to go to General, and then you'll want to find a certain particular section. I'm just trying to find it right now. Window. So you want to go to Window, and then where it says Stretch, you want to go Mode, and then Canvas Items, and then Keep. And then with the aspect, you can either go Keep or Expand. You can do what you want with this and play around with this, right? But I usually just do Keep for my aspect, and then we'll close that. And then, so what we'll do now is if we actually test out the UI scene again. So now let's actually scale out the window. And as you can see, the UI now correctly scales with the window size. And also it stays in a 16:9 aspect ratio as well, since that is the aspect ratio of our game's window. So yeah. So that there, guys, is pretty much the end of this tutorial. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. I'm sorry I didn't show you guys how to do like the beginning cutscene, but I did show you guys how to do all the other stuff anyway, so at least I got to do all that. But again, be sure to go check out my games at omogonixlachlan.itch.io to go check out some of my games. A lot of them there are free. So yeah. And I'll see you all soon on my next tutorial, which will most likely be part 4 of this Godot horror game tutorial series. And so yeah, see you all soon, and bye-bye.